Hey guys, and welcome to Littleblackbook91. We are here giving you guys an exclusive interview with DeAnglo. I am talking with Alexis Fly's ex-husband. Yes, we're going to have a very candid, real conversation about marriage, divorce, love, and learned experiences as well. So if anybody is here and wants to learn something tonight, listen, this is the place to be, man. We're going to have a real conversation and keep it candid as well. I also ask audience members, please keep it respectful in the chat as well, please. Okay, I know sometimes we get a little bit excited, but I want to keep it respectful. You know what I'm saying? And let's have a real deep conversation and learn something tonight. But Cap, DeAnglo, how you doing today?
I'm good, Kojo. How are you, sir?
I'm alive and well, I'm doing good. I cannot complain. So yeah, no. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. It's been a interesting day for me, but it's been good. You know what I'm saying? How's
Good,
your day
good.
been so far?
My day's been good, man. I can't complain. Every day I wake up and I got breath in my body, man. I'm just grateful to God. I try not to take anything for granted. A lot of people are sick, a lot of people in the hospital. I'm just grateful to be here, brother.
Cool, man. Love that. Love that. Love that. Okay, so I like to always do my human verifications before we start. Let me lower my camera because I know it's a bit high. Hold on. Here we go. I like to do my human verifications before we start, the show, before we get into anything conversationally wise. So, this is my human verification. My very first question is a song lyric. I need you to tell me what the actual artist and the song is. So I'm going to read a few lyrics for you. All right.
All right, man. If I know it, I got you. Oh, let's go.
Cool. So the lyrics are: "It is the light of day that shows me how, and when the night falls, the loneliness calls."
I have no idea, man. I'm not a lyric person. I have no idea who that is. Go ahead, do it again. Do
Bro,
it again. Say it again.
bro.
Is
Oh,
this is
okay.
it somebody I should know?
Yeah, you should know it.
Let me take
It
a good guess. Is it D'Angelo?
is that.
No.
That would have been a smart guess still, but it's not D'Angelo. No. I'll say again, it's the light of day that shows me how, and when the night falls, the loneliness calls.
Man, I have no idea. I'm clueless, brother.
Whitney Houston, dance with somebody.
With Houston, oh, okay. Definitely want to know that song.
Oh, no
Yeah,
words at all,
yeah.
Cap. No words at all. Next time I've got to bring some gospel, yeah.
I mean, it could have been some other songs, man, but not that one, though. Yeah.
No worries at all. And then my second question is a riddle. The riddle goes: "You can touch me, you can break me, you should win me if you want to be mine. What am I?"
Love, heart.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. That was easy. That was simple, that.
I would have never guessed that in my whole entire life. I would have never guessed it in my whole entire life. All right, cool. And my last question for human verification is milk or cereal into the bowl first? Milk or cereal?
I mean, where that come from is always cereal first, man.
Cereal first.
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. I can rock with that still. I can rock with that. We'll rock with that. Okay, cool. Human verification done. And we're here to now open up the scales of conversation. So, sir, Mr. D'Angelo, I know a lot of people are probably wondering why we're deciding to sit down and have this conversation. But before we answer that question, I want to get to know you a bit more. Okay?
Right.
I want us to get to know you a bit more and who you are. So I always ask this question: what is D'Angelo's story?
Man, we don't have enough time for that. The best, have you ever seen the movie, The Antoine Fisher Story?
Yes.
Okay. That's probably pretty much represents my life.
Okay.
So, a lot of challenges growing up as a youth. Parents divorced when I was young, and I probably went to about 8 different elementary schools. Dropped out of high school. Got married the first time at 17, and man, had to overcome a lot of obstacles in the early years of my life. But by God's grace, still here, overcame those things. So yeah, I don't want to get into a lot of details, because it's a lot. But
Mm.
from a dropout to a college graduate, military, The only thing I haven't probably gotten right or conquered is relationships. So I'm still working in that area, man. As
And
you can see, that's why we're here. So still
we'll,
praying, man. Still praying. Still at the
we'll
altar.
touch on that as well. We'll touch on that as well.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you sharing on that. Okay, so I mean, obviously, we are talking about backgrounds and trying to get to know you. So obviously, that obviously you don't want to go into too much detail. That's cool. So I mean, let us into the insight of DeAnglo. What was childhood like? What would you say is your fondest memory as a child?
Wow. Fondest memory as a child, man. It's probably not that many. I think the times that I probably went fishing with my father
Mm,
or sat down and had talks with my mom. So those probably would be the fondest memories. Like I said, my child was pretty challenged. Like I saw family members using crack cocaine. I saw family members making
damn.
crack cocaine. I had to go make deliveries. As a kid, I grew up around a lot of drug dealers. I grew up watching movies about drug dealers. So those are my fond memories,
Mm,
because I took a lot of that, you know, the things that I saw drug dealers do, and I took that, and that's how I became an entrepreneur.
mm. Okay. And what area did you grow up in America? What area specifically?
Texas, born and raised in Texas, man.
Damn.
Yeah, Houston,
Okay.
Texas. Yeah.
Okay. And so so your childhood was like you was literally involved in a lot of There was a lot of drugs around you and stuff like that. That was kind of like normalized to you.
That was normalized to me, seeing prostitution, seeing, drugs being used, drugs being taken. That just became a normal way of life, So me being the oldest child, I was kind of on pretty much on my own, a lot. I would go back and forth between my mom and my dad's house, but I stayed with my grandfather a lot, my uncles. We had like 17 people in a 3-bedroom apartment. So, just imagine, sleeping on the floor, rats, roaches. That was my life, man.
I mean, that sounds like a very hard kind of upbringing. I know you're kind of saying it like it's just almost like his life kind of thing, but like, I mean, obviously going through that doesn't that affect a young man growing up?
Oh, absolutely. Because when you're going to school, you don't have new clothes. Everybody's wearing the latest kicks, latest whatever it is, Jordans or whatever they're wearing at the time. And, you're wearing the same clothes over and over, being made fun of, you know, always, having to get free lunch because, my family was poor. Man, a good meal for us was the first of the month when we had hamburgers and hot dogs. That was a good meal for us.
Mm.
And and even when they made hot dogs, they still put water in the chili to spread it out for everybody. They put water in the ketchup. So for me, growing up like that has taught me to be grateful for where I'm at this point in my life.
Mm. Okay. Okay. And obviously, then I know you briefly mentioned military. Is that what kind of pushed you towards there, or was that just a natural choice that you came across?
Well, I had a choice. I had a choice either be a drug dealer or go to the military.
Mm.
Those were the options. And so for me, I dropped out of school, went back and got my GED, and enrolled in the military at 17. I couldn't leave until I was 18. I enrolled when I was 17, and man, I'm still benefiting from that decision today. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life.
Mm. What do you think that the military gave you that has enhanced your life right now? So like from when you look back at what you've gone through in the military, how does that impact you now?
Uh, Discipline,
Mm.
drive. 8 weeks of basic training, 8 9 weeks of basic training. Then you got another, I think, 13 weeks of AI school. And when you're doing that at 18 years old, and you're from the hood, you're from the streets, it gives you a level of discipline that you probably never had before. So I would definitely say that the discipline and the drive. Yeah.
Mm, discipline and drive. Okay, okay, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, obviously, I've never been through the military, but I do understand how it can make you more disciplined, and give you a bit of a drive and ambition in terms of having a different path in
Oh,
life.
yeah.
I mean, if
No,
you were, oh, go, yeah, go for it.
well, I was gonna say. Then the other thing is the diversity in the military.
Mm,
Meeting people from all different you know places in the world. Gives you a global perspective on life. Things that I didn't get to see as a kid. Um, I didn't get to go to summer camps as a kid and do things like that, and so I couldn't even join the Boy Scouts. And my parents just they didn't have money like that, and my parents wasn't gelling like that either. My parents didn't get along, and so when I got into the military, I just began to see life from a different perspective.
okay. All right. I mean, obviously, then you said you didn't have much, like as a great upbringing in terms of what you experienced as well. And obviously, you said I think you said your fondest memory was obviously as well going fishing with your dad and stuff as well. I mean, do you have much of a relationship with your father when you were younger?
I did. I was a daddy's boy, man. I was. I was always trying to cling to my father as much as I could. It's crazy. I've been thinking about this guy a lot lately.
Mm.
Both of my parents are deceased.
Oh,
Um,
my
but man,
condolences.
yeah, I was a daddy's boy, man. Definitely a daddy's boy. Love my
Mm.
mom. My mom taught me a lot. My confidence probably came from my mother. She built me up that way. Me, my sister, and my brother. You know, and that's why we probably overcame the circumstances of our childhood. But
Mm.
yeah, my dad, I was definitely a dad's boy, man.
Tell us or describe to us kind of like the impact that a father has on a son. So for you,
Oh,
having your dad in your life as you did, what's the kind of impact that he has on you as a young man?
so my dad didn't drink. My dad didn't smoke, but he loved women. So he was a Rolling Stone. I think my dad had 12 children. I think he was married three times, 3 or 4 times. I'm not, I lost count. But my dad taught me work ethic. He believed in working, man, and I've always seen him work. My dad was able to build with his hands. He could build a house. He could build whatever foundation. That was not my ministry. I would watch him do it. I never got into it, and I always admired him for being able to do it. He wanted me to do it, but that just wasn't my thing. And so, but what I got from him, hey man, sometimes honestly, Coach, I don't know. You know, my dad had charm, my mom had charisma, and I don't know if that can be a blessing or a curse. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, my dad was a Rolling Stone, and
Mm.
you know, you try to break those generational curses, but sometimes
Mm.
it's difficult, man. Yeah.
Mm. When you say it's difficult, just tell us a little bit more. What do you mean by it's difficult?
Well, not for me, I used to say, man, I was gonna try my best not to be like my father. I didn't grow up in the church. My mother introduced me to the Lord, but we didn't go to church. And you know, I just didn't. I didn't. I always my desire was always to be married one time, be with one woman, and that was it. But there was some things that I had to deal with that I really didn't understand
Mm.
until I got older. Um, my mom was in and out of jail and out of prison,
Okay.
so I didn't get that nurturing from her.
Oh.
And because I didn't get that nurturing from her, I always found myself in relationships,
Mm.
leaning towards females and women, trying to fill that void. And so with my dad being a Rolling Stone and not having a nurturing piece with my mom, yeah, it caused some issues.
Mm. Okay. I mean, I don't know if we can press into that. And when you say issues, how did you see it play into your relationships then?
Well, man, I got married at 17. I
17.
got married the first time I got married. I was 17 years old, man. My mother had to sign for me. She was not happy about it, but for me, it was my way of escape. And when I married her, I thought I was like, hey, this is gonna be it. Um, but it didn't work that way. And so, then you start jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship, trying to find, not knowing yourself. You know,
Mm.
man, at 17, you're a kid. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
in your 20s, you're still young. You're still trying to find yourself. And so I spent a lot of my life trying to validate myself and fill that void and the emptiness that I had from my mom not, being there. And so, yeah. So those are what they're brought forth a lot of issues. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So obviously you're describing the fact that obviously going into a relationship you're finding that void, you're trying to fill that void almost by going into different relationships, and then obviously you got married at 17.
Yeah.
I mean, how I don't know if you want to answer that. I mean, how long did you stay in that relationship for then? From 17, that marriage. Sorry.
Enough to have children. Let me see. Man, at 17, we honestly we shouldn't have been married. Honestly, man, we were married legally for 8 years. We probably were
Wow.
together maybe 2 years and separated for the most of that. Going back and forth. And
Mm.
oh yeah, I got a story to tell, brother. Yeah,
Wow. I mean, okay. So married at 17. Obviously then divorced. I'm guessing that 8 years later, finally. But then obviously majority of that time you spend actually separated from the partner
right.
in a relationship. I mean, what for you then? What looking back at it now? I mean, what for you went wrong then? Because I know you said obviously we shouldn't have been together in the first place. When you look back at it, what do you mean that you shouldn't have been together in the first place?
Man, my kids know about this now. I really don't want to get into a lot of details,
That's fair enough.
but there was infidelity, not on my part, and we were young, and and to be fair, I did leave for military duty.
Mm,
I left a young wife and a daughter at that time,
mm,
and she was young,
mm.
and things happened. We tried to reconcile, try to work it out, um, but it didn't. We couldn't get there.
Mm. Okay, I mean, how did you? Okay, so obviously you've gone into military during the process of marriage,
Yeah.
and then obviously, was there a breakdown relationships before the infidelity kicked in, or was it the infidelity kind of
Oh,
kick stormed the
nah,
breakdown?
it was a breakdown before, man. We were arguing all the time. I think we argued the day before we got married. And it's crazy because we're going. That's why I say, man, there's a healing process. And I know
Yeah.
we'll get into this, but back then, oh man, we argued and fought all the time, and just, it was crazy. And I'm against young kids dating and getting into serious relationships like that because you don't need to be going through that. It's too
Mm.
emotional. But yeah, so we had problems before I left military duty. But like I said, in a couple of months we're all going on a family trip. So yeah,
Mm. So obviously, from your end, maybe not from their end, but from your end, when you look back at some of the behaviors that you may have exhibited in the actual marriage, in that particular marriage, what do you think that you? I mean, tell us what you think you could have done better in those scenarios. If there was something you could have done better.
man. Honestly, Coach, I think that was a learning process, man. And I
Mm,
like to be real candid because God has brought me a long way. I remember when she and I got our first apartment. I'm speaking of my first wife. So we were probably like, I don't know, man. I at 18 because I don't think my daughter was born yet. I think she was
mm,
pregnant. Yeah, she was pregnant with my daughter. I'm the oldest, and we had an air mattress. You know what I'm saying? So we didn't have fun, man. I think I was working at a convenience store, and uh, and I think she was complaining about the air mattress and how uncomfortable it was, and me being silly, naive. I'm like, man, there you go, complaining again. I'm up
mm,
here trying to do my best. I took it personally. You know,
mm,
and her dad, and I thank God for her dad, man. This is why I believe that when you break up with people, you don't necessarily break up with the family. And we'll talk about that later. But her dad has been a blessing to my life. I started working with him when I was 16 years old, so he had a lot of influence in my life. And when this happened with the bed, he told me, he said, she's pregnant, and so she's uncomfortable with it. It's not an actual mattress; it's an air mattress. And he began to make me understand. You would think I would have understood that, but I didn't.
You were
My
young,
dad,
yeah.
my dad didn't teach me stuff like that. I didn't learn stuff like that. I didn't see it in my family. I didn't see that. So all I thought was, I'm trying to provide for you, and we got our own apartment. The air mattress is all I can get right now. And to this day, I still remember that conversation, and it helped me develop and grow as a man to understand when a woman's pregnant, we never can really understand what she's going through. Now that may not seem like a big thing, but yeah, that really, to this day that still sticks with me.
I hear that, and obviously, I guess man to man as well. I know there's been conversations even in my life. There are that you have moments where you don't forget what the wisdom that someone drops into you at that time, and makes you change your viewpoint towards certain things. So
Right.
for you, obviously, that piece of wisdom that he gave you at that point stuck as a memory for you. What about that memory or that even that conversation made you really hold on to that? The fact that he gave you that piece of information at that time.
I think for me, Coach, in a relationship, I've always tried to be a provider, be a protector, and be a lover. And for me, I've always tried to be a better man, and become the best that I can be. I've had to learn. I've always been a listener. You know, I've had to learn. Um, just how to sit back sometime, take things in, and grow from it. Because at the end of the day, you want your marriage to work. You want your relationship to work. So you take the faults and you learn from them. You know, and then that's. I mean, for me, life has always been about growing,
Yeah.
and so I hold on to those things which I think is dear to help me, to grow and develop as a man.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Good boss. Okay, so then obviously, like I said, obviously military happens. You go there, infidelities happen, breakdown of relationship happens. You guys then separate, and then you kind of are now leaving that relationship. What when you're in that process of separation and going into divorce, what's the mindset?
Man, it's tough. I think it was tougher on me the second time when I got divorced, and I'll explain. I'll get into that later whenever you want to.
Yeah, no
But
worries.
man, it was tough for me because, like I said, I've always wanted just to be married and just to make it work and spend my life, with my wife. And for me, it's a painful thing. It's like, do I try to work this out? Do I try to go back? You know, um, your mind is all over the place. You start thinking about your parents, their divorce, their life, the choices they made. Am I making the same choices? Can I do better? What did I do wrong? Then you start, and the mistake that a lot of us make during separations, we start leaning on other people in our separations, and we start, you know, trying to fill that emptiness we have because we're no longer with our partner. So you say, well, okay, I'm not getting sex from them. I got to get it from somewhere. I ain't getting love
Yeah.
from them. I got to get it from somewhere. And then now you create more of a problem.
After obviously then, like I said, I love the point that you made there, obviously about filling the void as well, because I think that is such a key thing to talk about. Because obviously, like I mean, whether you're divorced, whether you're single, whether you're married, we all feel this sometimes at points in time where we feel that void sometimes, especially if you had a childhood where parents haven't been able to be emotionally invested in us from a young age as well.
Right.
What do you feel like as you were having that time period of separation? What did you feel, apart from obviously, yes, you wanted the physical aspect of someone to be around, but what did you notice about you missing in that point in time emotionally? What was missing for you then in that emotional time? Because obviously you're going through a divorce and a separation, and you're aware of your past and your childhood. In that period of time, what's missing for you? What is the missing piece for you that you're feeling at that point, aside the physicality?
I think at that time, during the first divorce and separation, was not being able to be around my children. Not being in the house with them, waking up in the morning with them. And that became a long process because we never reconciled. Wondering if she was with somebody else, if she's sleeping with somebody else, who's she with, who are my children are going to be around, who she's bringing to the house. And, so emotionally it's a roller coaster, you want to reconcile, but man, sometimes things are so toxic, it's impossible to. Yeah.
How do you deal with that then? If you like, because that is a feeling you want to reconcile with a person, but like you said, it's so toxic. How do you navigate that piece?
Man, sometimes that's a long road to recovery. And I got to speak as a believer because that's what helped me. Though I made my mistakes and I had challenges, that was a long road to recovery. And that's why I say the second divorce hurt even more. Because I thought this was going to be it. I thought that, in my mind. And so once I got past, the first divorce and to be honest, I got into some relationships, didn't get married, and I had children. I didn't get married. And so when the second time that I got married, it was like, okay, this was a thought out process.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to marry her and this is going to be it. we done. We going to do this. And so, man, but yeah, it's a long road to recovery when you're going through a divorce. There's nobody can preach you through it. People can pray for you. People, some people tell you, hey, you just need to get over it, or you need to get over them. But nobody can really tell you to get over a spouse. You know what I'm saying? Not even your parents, because your parents don't understand the level of intimacy that you have with that person. Their relationship. Because oftentimes you have in-laws who just don't like your spouse.
Yeah.
Or you have family members who just don't like them, so they want you to get over them. But they don't understand the dynamics of the relationship that you have with this person. And so sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get through that process.
Obviously, in that first marriage, after you've kind of broken up, divorced now, what did the healing process in the first time round look like? What was it in that first round that you got married and divorced? What was the healing process? What did it look like to you?
Man, the healing process for me meant that quite a few women had to get hurt. Because I went from the separation to a relationship trying to get past the pain. And then went to another relationship trying to get past the pain. I'm like, somebody got to help me get past this pain. Not understanding that nobody can help you get past the pain. And man, I don't even want to get into the show already. But look, when you're divorced, you got to have that time to yourself. You got to get to know you. You have to learn how to love yourself, believe in yourself, and know who you are, because you can be whatever who you want to be with, and at the end of the day, you're just gonna cause them more pain, and then you're gonna wind up being in pain. So yeah, so other women had to get hurt in order for me to go through a healing process.
Obviously, I love the transparency as well. When you look back at it, and you look at obviously the fact that after the first divorce, you've had to go through a few women as well, and obviously some have been hurt by that behavior. what's your kind of viewpoint towards that stint of your life now? Because obviously you're looking from it from a different perspective now, and you're looking back at the fact that there was a period of time where you were in relationships which you wanted to heal from, but actually ended up being the person who's hurting those people
Yeah,
emotionally. We talk about, right?
yeah.
What how do you look back at that period of time, and how do you see it now? How do you have what perspective do you have of that situation now?
Fortunately, I have good relationships with those people, great
Okay.
relationships, and they're married and I have great relationships with their husband. By the grace of God, because I believe in that. Um, so I'll say it this way, Kojo. So being older, being mature, and understanding, I have to go way back to my relationship with my mom.
Come on now.
And growing up, I had a lot of resentment towards my mother.
Hmm.
My mother was an amazing woman,
Mm.
amazing. But I had resentment towards her because I felt like she wasn't there for me when I needed her. I
Mm.
felt that way. But it took her passing away for me to realize she was there as much as she could be.
Hmm.
But as a kid, I felt rejected. And so whenever a woman would reject me, it triggered something in me.
Ooh. Okay.
And so when infidelity hit in the first relationship and words of disrespectful talk and craziness, uh, it triggered something in me. That pain,
Mm.
that childhood pain would always come back. You
Mm.
know, so when would go into another relationship, it was always about respect. You need to respect me. You need to respect me. And whenever I didn't get respect, and it felt like rejection, it caused problems in the relationship. But it
Mm.
all stemmed from my relationship with my mother. So I had to go through a healing process as an adult man, therapy and counseling, to understand I can't expect, I can't put that on anybody, that I'm in a relationship with. I had to go through the healing process that I had with my mother and understand that I can't inflict any more pain or unrealistic expectations on somebody in a relationship.
Wow. I want you to take us a little bit deeper because I'm loving where you're going right now. You're talking about the rejection that you felt from your mother. Um, Describe to us the kind of pain and how that shows itself up. Like, how do you? Because I guess obviously, I think we know exactly what you're talking about. But how does it present itself, that pain to you, knowing that you've been that rejection from a childhood, and then obviously seeing that in relationships? How does that present itself? How does that look like?
Man, it looks like it's a lonely place. It makes you feel like that all you want is love, all you want to be is love, and you just can't seem to get it. So what's wrong with me? Oh,
Mm.
what's wrong with you? And um, like I said, I mean, I think a lot of people, man, sweep childhood things under the rug, and then we take them into marriages and not realizing that we're causing a lot of harm to the people um, that we're engaged to or that we're married to. And they know nothing about
Mm.
your childhood pain. I know for me, that's the one my mom to take me shopping. Many times she didn't have time or she just didn't do it. You know,
Mm.
that was a form of rejection for me. When my mother was in prison or in jail, I'll write her letters and say, "Mom, hey, just come home this time. Let's do right. Just start over. You know, you know, God can do this. Just put God first." And I remember always pleading with her. And as a child, it's hard to see your mother behind bars. This
Mm.
is a woman that gave birth to you, and it's challenging, you know. And so you take that, Kojo,
Mm.
and when you get into a relationship with somebody else, I mean, you get into a relationship, you have these expectations that, hey, I just want you to be there for me. And then you got to realize that this is a human being who's going to make mistakes. They're going to have errors. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to disappoint you. But that's a whole process too. That's a whole process of becoming, learning how to understand that. Most people get into marriages and relationships and don't understand that your spouse is not a perfect person. They're not a perfect human. They're going to make mistakes. And they're probably going to make mistakes that's going to trigger something from your childhood.
Mm. Mm. Wow.
And the reason being is, it's because God is trying to develop us and grow us. That's the whole process. Over a lifetime, it's just about us growing and developing and be able to do things for the kingdom. And so that's why I've always been transparent. I'm praying somebody gets something from this. I'm praying somebody, say, hey man, I can relate to that. I went through that. Maybe it helps them understand some things. It's a growth process.
Man, that's real. That's real. Oh, okay. So you then obviously now have got into a few relationships. You've come out of them, and then you meet your second wife. Is that Alexis, the second wife?
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, how did you guys meet?
Man, we met. I was pastoring at the time, and I was single, and I was with somebody before her. We dated, I think, like 3 years, and then we broke it off because of rejection thing. And I felt rejected, and so after like 18 months, I was like, hey, we should get married. And after 18 months of dating, and she was like, no, I don't know yet, and this and that. And of course, I'm not going to say her name, but people know who I'm talking about. And one day we were in premarital counseling, and she said she felt pressured. And when she said she felt pressured, I felt like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be transparent how I felt. I felt like she was trying to say I was raping her or something. I'm like, pressure? I'm like, we've been together almost 2 years. So at that point, I couldn't turn it around no more. I felt the rejection hit. Now, not knowing this was, something stemming from my childhood, all I knew was this woman that I really care about and love told me that I was pressuring her. And I didn't want to go to premarital counseling anymore. I said, I'm just going to focus on ministry. And eventually, I broke it off with her. And when I say she was a great girl. She really was a really great woman. But it was me. So we had been broke up and separated. And you know how the churches, man, people think you can't be a single pastor. They think they always got to marry you all.
That's true.
You need a woman and all this kind of stuff. And I was enjoying being single. I really didn't want to be with nobody. But I had a friend, him and his wife owned some salons. And at that time, she did marketing for them. And they wanted to connect us. And they sent me her picture. And I didn't call her. And, they sent me a number and stuff. I never connected with her because I was like, I'm focused on ministry. So it took about 3 weeks before we actually talked.
Wow. So 3 years before you actually spoke to Alexis?
No, it took 3 weeks before I actually spoke to her.
3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, about 3 weeks or a month. I didn't, I just was not focused on the relationship. So yeah.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Before we go into the Alexis stuff, when did we get into the pastoral stuff? How did we get to the pastor stuff? Like, tell us a little bit about the story before we go into the Alexis stuff.
I started ministry probably at the age of 21, 22. When I met Alexis at 36, I think, 35, 36. So I'd already been in ministry a long time, working in, different areas, working youth pastor, young adults pastor, men's ministry. And then ultimately I started my own church. And so I started a church plant, and I began to, develop it. And, we had a few people there core leaders and stuff. And so we were already getting established before she and I got connected.
Mm. Okay, so you're in ministry already, and then you end up becoming a pastor. At what
Yeah,
age did you become a pastor?
you know, honestly, because I've always felt called into ministry.
Mm.
Um, I I still looked at. I don't know how I started a church, but God, starting a church
Mm-hmm.
is not an easy thing.
Mm.
I didn't have support. I didn't have finances behind me. All I had was God's grace, and and we did it for 7 years before I stepped away from it. But yeah, I started on my own, um, by myself with no help. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So you obviously started went into pastoral, and then obviously how long into your ministry should we say before you actually met Alexis?
I think it was about a year and a half in at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, a year and a half almost. Yeah, about a year and a half in.
But okay, beautiful. Okay, so about a year and a half, and then obviously 3 weeks before you actually had contact.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I
man,
mean,
about 3 weeks. Yeah.
okay. So I mean, what drew you two together then? Obviously because it was 3 weeks before you guys started talking, but what actually drew you two together?
It was ministry. We talked a
Okay.
lot about the Lord. Talked a lot about church and ministry. Um, so let me be clear and say this: Alexis knows the Lord. Alexis loves God, and she's a woman of God. Um, she's a praying woman of God.
Mm,
You know, and that was our connection. You know,
mm,
our main connection at the time. It was just our love for God and our love because she was actually, I believe she was a leader in her church at that time. She worked in ministry. Yeah.
mm. Wow. Okay. Okay. So obviously you guys obviously connected over God and ministry, and the fact that obviously you guys had kind of like I guess like similar interests in that regard. Then, okay. So how did it get into a relationship? How do we get from just being cool and just maybe chatting to each other once in a while? How did we then get into a relationship? What was the driving piece to take you to a relationship?
I only can speak for myself,
Of course.
so I'll speak on my behalf. I can't speak on her, man. I fell in love with her little self. She's
Mm.
a little tiny woman. My mom was a little woman, about 5 feet tall. Alexis, she's a little. They a lot of people just don't understand her. You know,
Yeah.
and you hear me talk a lot about her, man. She's an amazing girl. Very
Mm.
talented, very smart. Educated. Um, and I fell in love with her.
Mm. Mm. Okay. So she's a great girl, small like your mom. Fell in love with her. Okay.
Yeah.
S-
Well, let me say
mm.
because we dated. You know, we dated like I think a year and a half, 2 years before we got married, something like that. And I'll be transparent. Um, I was weighing my options with other people too.
Mm.
I was like, I got to be sure. You know, so I was weighing my options with other people, but she was who I chose. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. So okay. I mean, you brought it up. So what was the difference between Alexis and everybody else? Because you brought it up. So what made you decide? Alexis is the one to go.
And like I said, Alexis is very smart. She's intelligent. She's a go getter. You know,
Mm.
and one of the things about her, she's very organized, very extremely organized, and she believes in being on time. I'm always late. Um, so there was a lot of areas where I was weak in that she was strong in, and
Mm.
we spent a lot of time together doing a lot of things, going places. We went on a cruise. Um, before we got engaged and things like that. And so we just spent a lot of quality time together. And she was the one I chose.
Okay, a lot of quality time together. Okay, cool. All right, cool. And then obviously, okay, so you guys are in a relationship. How long are you guys in a relationship before it gets into marriage?
I think 2.5 years.
Okay, 2.5 years. Okay, and okay, so let's say looking back now, looking back, because obviously, like you said, the first marriage that you had, you looked back and you're like, shouldn't have gone there. This marriage here, when you're looking back, are you also thinking, did I engage too quickly? Did I not ask enough the right questions? Like, what's your analysis now looking back at it?
Hold on, let me take a sip of water, Coach.
Sip good, man. Let me sip mine as well, bro. You there?
um, I don't have no regrets.
I'll hit up.
I don't. Um, Nobody's going to give me. Did I learn a lot? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from the marriage. I probably learned more in a divorce because I had time to reflect.
Mm.
And it's sad to say. So let me be very transparent, and I want people to understand this. When we were married, I made time for ministry.
Mm.
She made time for the media, but neither one of us really made time for the marriage. And because the marriage did not get what it needed to get, ultimately, yeah, it's going to fall apart. But I take responsibility as a man, and like I said, I sit back and I've done a lot of reflection, because there were times that I absolutely did put ministry before my marriage.
Mm. Obviously, I'll keep it one and true. Obviously, she did mention it on the show. I think she gave an example, which was obviously people contacting the pastor at 1 o'clock in the morning. I ain't gonna lie to you. On my video, I said, ain't nobody should be contacting anybody at 1 o'clock in the morning
Right.
unless you're dead to rights. Like, don't be calling me at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit. Obviously, you're a pastor. I totally understand. Obviously, that you look after the congregation and the sheep. But I don't know if you can speak to that particular. I guess I wouldn't even say gripe, but she mentioned it as a reason as to one of the things that kind of maybe hurt her or frustrated her a little bit in terms of boundary keeping. What's your thoughts around boundary keeping and in terms of time people contacting you as pastor?
Man, that's a fair statement. It's very fair. Unfortunately, as a pastor, we put pastors on pedestals in the church, and we think that they're the savior, and that every problem we have, we got to go to them, or every problem that we have, that pastor got to pray. You got the same anointing. You know how to get down on your knees and pray. You should be able to speak to God just like anybody else. Okay, God just didn't come, here. Jesus didn't, give himself on the cross just for your pastor. You got saved too. You got to have a relationship with God as well. So I agree with this statement wholeheartedly. But when you're a young pastor, when you're new, and you got a new church and a new marriage, the one thing that you don't understand is balance.
Yeah, I hear you.
And because I did not understand balance at that time. And it wasn't just like people were calling at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. You're going to always have some people in the church that just do some crazy stuff.
Of course.
They arguing in the middle of the night. They're having a fight. Well, who they supposed to call? You're supposed to be their counselor at the middle of the night. Some crazy stuff like that. So I think that was a fair statement. I'm not going to say that's what ended our marriage, but that was a fair statement.
Okay, I understand that, and you're right. I mean, obviously, balance is everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
Balance is key, and I think many who have been PK children can testify to the imbalances that happen. So totally get that as well. And that being a piece as well. Tell us what was your fondest memory being married to Alexis. Then I think it also to give a bit of balance because sometimes everyone thinks you're coming here to shoot shots. But
Oh,
I mean,
no.
what was tell us a fond memory of yourself and Alexis as well.
We went to on our honeymoon, man. We went to Haiti to do missions work. That was our honeymoon, and we had to sleep in separate quarters. So I can sit back and laugh about it now. Well, brother, I was hot then. I mean, I was doing the Lord's work, but I'm like, dang, I'm on my honeymoon, and my wife in a whole other room, and I'm like, come on, man. So we did a lot in ministry. We were not, some mega church, but man, we did a lot in ministry. We did. We did a lot of things in the community, um, connected with a lot of people, and so we had a lot of great ministry memories.
Damn. So on your honeymoon, you were still on mission work. So what are you trying to say?
Yeah, we were still on missions work, brother. Yeah, we got married, and we left for Haiti for a whole week to do missions work. Yeah.
Wow. So obviously that. I mean that would affect the relationship if there's not time to, like you said, spend time with each other. But there's a lot of time is focused on helping other people, and it's not invested in the actual relationship. So yeah, that would
Yeah.
obviously that would cause issues between two people because you need to focus on each other and actually build connections with each other. So okay, no, I totally hear that. Take that into consideration. um so I mean, did you guys go on another honeymoon or anything like that? Because obviously that honeymoon was interrupted.
No, we didn't get to another honeymoon. I mean, we did some other things. We traveled. We went to, I think, Austin for the second anniversary. So we got to do some other stuff, man. But you're right. I believe as a young pastor at that time, because that's been 11 years ago, 10 years ago when I first started. Um, I did make time for a lot of the people because the mindset, oh, we got to grow this church. We got to grow this ministry. We're doing the Lord's work.
Mm,
And I'm not saying that I didn't make time for marriage, because I did, because I love my wife, crazy
hmm.
about her. And whatever she wanted, I was going to try to give for her. But that was definitely an imbalance. There was an imbalance
Mm, man, that's tough. I'm hearing that. Okay, I mean, and okay, so you and Alexis, how long were you married for then?
there. 5 years.
5 years. Okay, it's a long time. Um, what contributed towards then the downfall of the marriage? Because I guess you guys started off really well. I'm sure you guys were connected together. You had learned from the previous marriage. You were doing the healing process. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, what contributed towards the downfall of the marriage?
But I mean, there were some things that, um, like I said, I can only speak from my perspective,
Of course.
because she's not here. And I would love to do a live with her one day. Tell her
Mm,
she's an amazing girl, man. But because we talk all the time, you know, I don't want people to get it twisted. This ain't no bitter ex-husband sitting here. She's not no bitter ex-wife. I don't even roll like that because I don't do drama. I see a
mm,
lot of people and they only talk. People get divorced and act like they only want to see the person forever again. I don't believe in
mm.
that kind of stuff, especially when
Love that.
children are involved.
Love that.
But I, it got to the point where we just couldn't see eye to eye on a lot of
Mm,
things, and I think for me, one of the things that I've learned, Kojo,
mm-hmm.
um, I didn't listen whenever there was an emotional need from her. I didn't know how to deal with it,
Mm, mm.
and I wasn't taught how to deal with it.
Come on now. Okay.
You know, I didn't see it from my dad. I didn't see it from my mom. I'm like, because let me tell you, oftentimes when a man, because women are emotional,
Mm-hmm.
you know, And they have different levels of emotions. I mean,
Mm.
we're emotional too, but we're talking about marriage relation. We're talking about women. So women are emotional, and oftentimes when women are emotional, we where I come from, we look at it as, oh, they just acting crazy. You
Mm.
know, that's what it's just with. Oh, she just acting crazy. And it's not them acting crazy. It's them saying, hey, I need you to really listen to me and understand what I'm going through,
Mm.
and and feel where I'm coming from. And I think one of the greatest failures that we make as men is not being quality listeners when it comes to women.
Mm.
You know, we act like we're listening to them, but we're not. And so that was one of the things that I've learned, that I did not pay attention to her emotional needs.
Mm. Mm. And you mentioned obviously the fact that you understand. Obviously, you wasn't taught. You wasn't taught or reared in that particular way. Um, when obviously the emotions are coming towards you, what was your kind of natural response then? What was your natural response when you're seeing the emotion, the wall of emotion coming from Alexis to you? What was your natural response at that point in time then?
Probably man was like, oh, here we go again. You know, here we go. Man, gotta deal with this. And so that was the wrong. It wasn't a Christ-like attitude.
Mm.
It wasn't how can I meet your needs? What's wrong? What do you need from me? Let me just sit down and listen to you. Why don't you just lay on my shoulder and let's go through this together. Let's talk about this. It always came off as a problem rather than me trying to help her get to a solution.
Mm. Wow. How did you get to that point where you realized that was a behavior in the past that you weren't able to fulfill for your spouse at that point in time? How did you get to a point where you realized that's a piece of behavior that I wasn't able to do at that point in time?
Well said. I think anybody who wants to become a better person, you got to start looking at where you fail, where
Mm.
you made mistakes. We love to play the blame game in relationships. We love to play the blame game after divorce. When do you take responsibility for your own failures and your own actions?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot become a better person. You cannot grow until you accept your own mistakes.
Mm.
And so I had to sit back and look like, okay, because like I said, it was a dark period. When we got divorced, it was a dark period for me, man. Like I literally went to counseling for 3 years, almost 4 years. Okay. Went to therapy. And I was like, I ain't getting in no relationships anymore. I ain't gonna be with nobody else because this is too painful. I can't get it right. So I had to start asking myself, where did I go wrong? What were some of the mistakes that I made, and how can I do better going forward? And I just began to reflect, you know, where I went wrong, and things that I could have worked on and did better. And I realized, like I said, being a good listener, being there emotionally, because I gotta understand, Alexis is 10 years younger than me.
Okay.
You know, that's that age gap. There's a maturity
Ages and
level.
stages. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's different experiences. When we met, she didn't have kids. She took on
Mm.
mine. You know, um, when we met. So let me go ahead and say this because all the people be hating on her. When we met, I was sleeping on the church floor.
Mm.
And she would come and sleep on the church floor with me. You know, so
Wow. It's that deep love. See
people,
y'all?
huh?
I said, I hope they're listening because they be getting at me about, getting in deep with love. But come on, I'm listening,
Yeah,
sir. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. And so I'm up here trying to build a church and trying to grow a church, and and people see something on television. They see, you know, they try to come up with, okay, she is this kind of person. I'm like, no, you don't know her. Y'all looking at Alexis Fly. I know Alexis. I was married to her,
Mm-mm.
and I know the person that loves the Lord. I know the person that cares about people. Um, I know the person that serves I know the person that slept on the church floor with me because I didn't have a place to stay at that time because I was trying to pay bills at the church and do all these other things. So, yeah, that's the person I know.
Wow. That's a real one. Still, I'm not gonna lie to you, because even me, I wouldn't sleep on the church
Yeah.
floor
You
with
want to sleep? What?
nobody.
You want to sleep on the floor?
Nah,
Yeah.
sorry, bro.
So,
I have
yeah,
to leave you alone with that one, bro. Nah.
yeah. She was a ride or die.
Wow. Wow. That's big, man, and that's a big compliment also to Alexis, to how she was invested with you in that time, in that season.
Yeah.
I do have to ask a real question though.
Yeah.
So obviously the breakdown. We know the breakdown of communication, everything that happened, but was there infidelity?
Oh no. People always wonder that.
Just gotta make sure, you know what I mean. It was a good story, but so we have to make sure, you know.
Yeah, no, people always wonder that. And it's crazy because people still put us together, for some reason. I don't know why. Because, Alexis has this social media following. She's a social butterfly.
Mm.
And so let me go ahead and say this to the people too. Because, they hating on the heart, man. Let me tell you, Alexis is resilient. Okay. She ain't going nowhere.
Mm.
So for those of you hating, all you're doing is adding fuel to the fire because Alexis Fly ain't going nowhere. She gonna bounce back. God is on her side. Trust and believe that. So
Mm.
a lot of the things that's been said is ridiculous, but I'm not going to get into that. But what was the? There was no infidelity at all.
Yeah.
You know, um, for some reason, people still tie us together. I think because we did a lot of things in ministry, and we did a lot of things publicly, so people still tie us together.
Mm. Even now when she's on the show, I'm assuming that probably people are still probably reaching out to you.
And I've had phone calls from pastors, phone calls from friends, phone calls from families, text messages, DMs from women I've never met in my life. You want to know if I'm okay? And I'm like, I'm good. It's not that serious. So yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah.
Okay. So just one more time, just so we have a bit of clarity. What broke you guys up again? What contributed towards the downfall, to the divorce? How did we get there?
You one of those people still trying to keep us together, huh?
You never know, But we did the Lord's work.
Um, so just to be transparent,
Yeah.
we we made, like I said, I made time for ministry.
Mm.
Alexis is a workhorse. She made time for media. We never made time for the marriage.
Okay.
And because we didn't make time for the marriage, because we didn't nurture it, the marriage did not, I can say there was some regrets getting divorced because I don't think we allow the marriage to develop. And I think oftentimes too many people do that. We're quick to get divorced without allowing the marriage time a great development stage.
Mm. Okay. I hear that. I hear that. Okay, so then you guys get to a point of obviously now divorce. Um, Take us through the healing process in that particular part then, because you said the second time was much harder because obviously you had the mindset which was, hey, this is going to be it, it's going to work, etc., etc. Take us through the mindset in terms of how then you're healing in the process when you're going through this divorce process then.
In the early stages, I was like, you know what, I'm about to be a free man again. That was initially. I was like, oh, I'm
I
about to
know
be
that
free.
feeling.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I'm about to be free, and I'm about to do me. Um, but when you love someone, and when you have a child with them or children, uh, it makes things a little more difficult to be free. Uh, Especially with the kids because the kids don't understand. Why mom and dad not together? Why am I going to mom's house and why am I going to dad's house? And I think at some point all kids have some hope that their parents may reconcile or get back together. Um, the healing process for me was a long one. I stepped away from ministry. I didn't want to have nothing to do with the church. I tried, to continue, but it was too much. My mind wasn't there because I felt like a failure.
Mm.
I felt like, man, I can't keep a wife. I can't
Mm-hmm.
even stay married. And so I stepped away from ministry and I just started, living life, going to counseling, going to therapy, trying to work. Got into some situationships, you know, trying to rebound and all that stuff, that don't work, that don't help. And ultimately you learn, what, you just got to be by yourself, have a relationship with God and start reflecting on, you know, where do you need to grow as a person?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the healing process looked like for me. How do I grow as a person? Because I don't want to hurt no more women.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what really got me there. Was like, you know what? This ain't just about me. I don't want to hurt any more women in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So let me start working on me.
Mm. Sound point. I guess obviously the audience is. I think it's a very good question to ask. You don't have to answer it. Who initiated the divorce then?
Uh, and I don't remember if it was me or not. It may have been something mutual. Honestly, I don't. I don't. It probably was me. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It probably. I don't really remember. It just ultimately came to the point that like, we need to go our separate ways. I think it was a
Mm.
premature decision, but it was a decision that was made.
Do you now look back on it from an objective standpoint, emotions aside, look back at that moment where you did supply the divorce, or if you potentially kind of came to a mutual thing, do you think to yourself, maybe I was too soon?
Yeah, I do. There are times I thought that. Absolutely. I think, man, especially when it comes to black love,
Mm.
um, I don't know what's going on in our culture, um, but there's definitely some challenges there.
Mm.
And I hear black women all the time say, we need to be protected.
Mm-hmm.
So that's starting to become a big part of my conscience. And I'm seeing a lot of my friends get divorced or going through problems in their relationships. And then every time you look on social media, it's always black women having something negative to say about black men, or black men having something negative to say about black women. And there's nothing positive. And so for me, I start to look at my own relationship um, with her, and I was like, maybe we just didn't try hard enough.
Mm.
Maybe we threw in the towel too soon. Yeah.
Does that hurt to make that statement? Does that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
It hurts because I'm I never want. So let me be clear. When I got married the first time, even at 17, it was my intentions to stay married. Like I tell my children that they're like, had that not had happened with your mom, and I tried to reconcile with her, we would have still been together.
Mm.
Because I've just always been that kind of person. So that's why
Mm.
I said the second time was even more painful than the first time. And so yeah, I mean, it hurts. You know, I mean, we're in a good place now. We're divorced, um, and she's doing her thing, and life goes on. But yeah, of course it hurts. We have a child together.
Mm. Is it difficult to, I don't know, what's the perspective of then, I don't know if you do watch the show Ready to Love, um um but is obviously you get people
I,
reaching
I
out to
don't
you.
watch it. I
You
don't
don't watch
watch
it.
it. I don't watch now.
You don't watch it. Okay, cool. I mean, do you know anybody else? Okay, you might have heard things, obviously. So you might have heard. I'm sure people would have reached out to you and said things. I mean, do you know anybody else on the who's on the cast then? Aside obviously your ex-wife, do you
Yeah,
know anybody else on the cast?
I know David, and I met Jason a few times. Yeah.
God damn.
Now, so let me hold on. Let me be clear. Jason and I are not friends. Okay, because I want
Okay.
people thinking like, no, Jason and I, we're not friends. He was my son's coach. So
Okay. Okay.
Jason, so it's not like that. Now she ain't trying to holler at this guy like we friends and stuff like that. But I know David because David and I used to preach at his father's church a lot,
Okay.
and so we all ran in a circle. So yeah,
Okay. Okay. No, I mean, it kind of makes sense why Jason don't want to date, date Alexis. Because if he does know you, that is kind of odd. I ain't gonna lie to you, man to man, that's kind of odd, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
well he don't know me like that.
But
So
he's
let me
seen
be
ya.
clear. We've only met when I would pick my son up, and I
Oh.
talked to him a few times, but then like we hung out like father and coach and stuff. It's not like that. He was good. Honestly, all them guys, if they had a real shot at talking to her, I wish them the best. You know,
Mm.
you know, and I know David wouldn't talk to her, but even him, I'm just saying that's the kind of dude that I am.
Mm.
If they did hook up, I just want them to know this, that my daddy's stroke already laid in the concrete because we got a son together. So anybody she talks to got to come through me anyway.
Mm.
So it don't matter, if she just if one of those guys think they got a good shot at her, and I want them to have a happy life, but you got to come through me anyway.
Because you're obviously the child, the father of the child. I get
Yeah,
it.
you
Makes
got
some
to come
sense.
through me. Yeah.
I get you. I get it. That makes sense. Okay. That's a Mazzoline. Okay, cool. So obviously, so we obviously know. So you obviously that's a wow. So wow. Ooh. Wow. So obviously David. Obviously Jason on the
Yeah.
show as well. Okay, cool. And obviously you ran the same circles with David. Obviously preaching and stuff like that as well. Okay.
Right.
I mean, obviously, like, what's the extent of your relationship with David then, from the show?
You know, let me choose my words wisely because
Yeah, she's
yeah,
him on
nobody knows I'm doing this interview. Then they're gonna find out. So yeah, so I used to preach at David's father's church.
Okay.
Now David and I didn't really run in circles, but we did ministry together. I've been to their church. They came to my church, and I know David's family. His wives. I was at his last wedding. Um, so yeah, we have an association.
Okay. Okay. Cool. No worries. I won't ask any more questions about David. I think that would be cheeky of me to ask those questions.
I mean,
Um.
I don't know. There's probably not much more that I can say. We talked. I've talked to him. I haven't talked to him recently because I think he's not doing his thing with the show.
Mm,
But we talked, and I'm gonna talk to him again.
okay.
Uh,
Men
yeah,
talks.
yeah, man, talk. Yeah,
Men talk. Okay. No, that makes that. I think that's good. You know what I mean? Obviously, I did a few videos on the David situation, and I thought that maybe he needed a bit more time to recover and to heal. You know what I mean?
I
Like, I
think
think
I
that would be
think
good. I
I,
think men need to have that process of time of healing.
yeah, I think my brother do need some more time. He's a good guy. He is.
Mm.
I think he just needs some good time, to himself and enjoy being single. But David enjoys being in a relationship. His parents were married for 40 years.
Yeah.
If that's what you see and that's what you know, and you want that same experience. He has a heart to be married, um, and I pray that he finds that one you know that will be with him and endure and stay with him. But that's a process. We all got to go through a healing process after divorce, man.
Mm. Okay, no, I definitely hear that. Definitely hear that. Definitely hear that as well. Okay, so I mean, where are you at now then? Where's D'Angelo at now? What's D'Angelo up at the? What's he doing at the moment?
So as far as what, what you trying to get
Relationships,
at? What you trying to get at? Cause as far as what
relationships. Where's D'Angelo at now?
relationships?
Yeah.
Um, oh man, you trying to put me on the spot, brother. Let me say this. Um, I don't plan on being single for the rest of my life.
Hallelujah.
Okay, I will say that. Um, I know I'm a good guy. I know what I bring to the table, and I've had a lot of healing to go through. And I'm just at a different place in my life. When you're 45, you get to 40, you see things from a different perspective. And so yeah, at some point, yeah, that's gonna happen.
Okay. No, definitely. I definitely hear that. Definitely hear that. Okay, cool. I mean, it's a lot. Obviously, I know. Obviously, like I said, you don't watch the show, so can't really ask too tough questions about Ready to Love in a sense. Um,
I mean, for me, honestly,
mhm,
I'm not gonna say much about the women. I will say, I think a lot of the guys slept on Tressa. Is that the
mm,
name, Tressa?
yeah.
I think she was a beautiful girl. I
Mm,
really do. I think a lot of guys missed out on that. Um, I have a lot of opinions about the show. I don't think that you can necessarily find love on the show,
that's very true.
especially at that age. Um,
Hmm.
because I don't want to sound too self-righteous, but I'm just thinking, especially over the age of 40, and you
Mm,
saying that you can't find a relationship in one of the most diverse cities in the nation, in Houston, 4 million
mm,
people,
mm.
and you think you're gonna find love on a show in 5 or 6 weeks when you're competing for it? No, no, absolutely not. So, like I said, I don't watch Real Housewives of Atlanta. I don't watch Ready to Love, none of those shows, because I don't think they do anything for the culture.
Mm,
Um, I think they're demeaning and degrading for Black women. That's my personal opinion. Uh, but because women got to think, I've seen a few of the clips and
mm,
heard, women say, oh, well, so and so say I'm their number one. Well, of course you're their number one for the week. You know,
mm,
you know, you're competing with other women, and I think one thing that women still fail to understand, because think about this, Kojo, you're kind of speed dating over a 5 or 6 week period, whatever, 7 weeks, whatever, however long it is. You're going to get emotionally caught up with somebody at some
mm.
point. And those emotions going to lead to something physical at some point. And women still fail to understand just because you let them hit don't mean they're going to commit.
That's
You know,
true.
they still don't get that. And I find it hard to believe that you can be on that show and not be physical with somebody
Mm.
in that amount of time. So for me as an adult male and being where I'm at in life, it's just not something I would particularly participate in. But to each his own.
Mm. No, I do get that. I do get that. And obviously, like I said, the show, the format is competition, so it's going to be very, very difficult for you to find a match because you're competing
Exactly.
literally face to face with people. You
Right.
know, so it can get to a point where um, it's like people are going to lose sight of what they actually came there for, which
Exactly.
is that you came
Yeah.
there for love and you came there for somebody to actually want you and care for you. So no, I definitely hear that as well. And I definitely adhere to that sentiment as well. So, man, I mean it's a lot right there. I mean, obviously, I know you've only seen clips of stuff. The actual show. So, are you saying that you would never go on Ready to Love Yourself? You would never consider going on
Oh
dates though?
no, I'm too much of a man for that. I don't need no assistance getting a woman. And I'm not boasting. I'm not bragging, because I ain't the best looking brother in the room. Trust him. I understand that. Okay, I'm not Denzel or LL, but my mother always taught me to be confident in who I am, and so I definitely don't need no help from Ready to Love or social media or nobody to get no woman. So that's the one thing I didn't understand about the dudes. You know, I probably shouldn't be saying that because I'm not trying to knock the brothers, but I'm just like, yeah, I didn't understand that with the guys. I just didn't. I don't. I live in
No.
Houston.
Yeah,
And
how was the date? Okay, so how was the dating scene in Houston? Talk to me. How's the dating scene in Houston?
bro, we got women from all over the world in this place. It's crazy.
You know what? You can answer a question. You can answer a question. It's been firing off all week. Talking about obviously what men typically choose in terms of physique, because this is what popped off in our comment section on my channel. It absolutely destroyed me,
All right.
and
Okay.
I may be wrong. So I'm happy to be wrong and happy to apologize. You know what I'm saying? We were talking about obviously in terms of you know that I said about presentation is important. You know, I know I like women that are curvy. I love
Right.
women that are thick, right?
Right.
But I said as men, I think there's a presentation that we like, and then some of them we don't particularly like as much. And I mentioned Tressa because you mentioned Tressa, so let me talk about it. You mentioned Tressa, and I said that for me, presentation was important.
Right.
I think like for instance, this hoodie's quite tight, right?
Right.
But you know, so I said don't do it. You know, obviously, I would say obviously like that you gotta if you're gonna wear tight clothes, then everything's gotta be tight because it's a presentation for me. Do you know what I'm
I,
saying?
I agree.
And I
I,
wasn't
I,
saying that she's even bad looking. She's actually a really good looking girl. I was just talking about the presentation. If it's presented in the right way, then us men are like, oh, okay. You know what I'm
right.
saying? It was just
Right.
presentation. You know what I'm saying?
I wholeheartedly agree. So I don't think y'all have Baskin Robbins in the UK, right?
Ah, no, not really.
So Baskin Robbins here is an ice cream shop, and they have
Okay.
like 31 flavors. So for me, I like 31 flavors when it comes to women. It don't matter, you know, your race or anything. You know, you can be from Ghana, or you can be from backwoods Mississippi. You know, if I like you, I like you.
Come on now.
Presentation is important to me though, because I don't like women exposing themselves.
I
That's
hear
just
so.
me. That's my personal thing. Some guys like that. They say, well, guys like you are insecure. No, I'm not insecure. I just think, you know, the woman I'm going to be with should not be having cleavage out and all this other stuff, and carrying herself in a respectful manner. Um, the clips I did see of the show, I saw more breast meat than anything, and I'm just like, if that's what you're presenting to a man, what do you think you're gonna get from it? Because you're gonna reap what you sow. You cannot expect something serious when you're putting yourself out there like that. I'm not even talking about conversation. We're just talking about presentation. When you're putting yourself out there, if you're gonna look like a thought and dress like a thought, you're gonna get thought behavior. That's just the way it is. And another thing women don't understand, and let me say this: everybody got WAP. Okay, women think that's a gold mine. I don't know, for some reason women think, if I reveal myself and if I give myself to him and let him have some of this WAP, I'm gonna get him. This is coming from a guy. It's coming from a man. There's a whole lot of WAP out there. Okay, yours don't distinguish any difference from nobody else's. What do you have intellectually? Where
Come
are
on.
you emotionally? You know,
Content.
content. Yeah, that's what we want. Content. Because I'll take you to the hotel, but you can't come home to mama. You know, if you ain't got content, if you ain't got presentation. you ain't got good behavior. And I think we've gotten so far from that. Yeah. But presentation big. I think Tressa
Big
was a
thing.
great girl. I think she was a great girl. But yeah, I think the guy slept on her, but it is what it is.
I hear that. I hear that. Good talking points. Thank you. Yeah, Cap. I mean, is there any like projects that are coming up for you at the moment? Anything that we can be supporting you with? Anything that we could be jumping behind?
Definitely, man. I'm working on my brand. That's actually out. I haven't did the launch date yet. So it's called Fiagc, FIAGC, which is Faith is a Game Changer. So that's what you see on my IG tag, FIAGC, Faith is a Game Changer. So that's my clothing brand that I've come up with, and would love to have some support with that in the future.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Man, this has been a really insightful conversation. Yeah, man, it's been a really insightful conversation. I'm just kind of just learning and tapping into to the gems that you've kind of dropped. And you've broken down some things for us to really learn from, especially as well. Yeah, man, I appreciate you even jumping aboard and giving us your truth as well.
Right.
I know a
Absolutely.
lot of people. Go for it, Cap.
No, I say I appreciate you, brother. I really do.
Oh, it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing. I know a lot of people thought that it was going to go messy, and I was like, we're not going there, Cap. It's just like I said, it's just a genuine one-to-one conversation, and just be keeping it respectful and just having a conversation we can learn from as well. So I hope you guys have in the comments have learned something. I hope you guys have actually learned one or two things today. If you haven't, listen, go watch it again, man. It's some gems that were dropped and some real deep thoughts and conversation that were had there as well. So I guess obviously, any last thoughts you wanted to share with the audience?
Man, I would say to the people, there's been a lot of negative stuff that has been said about the show. Um, we got to be more uplifting in our culture. You know, if you see something you don't like or you don't agree with, there's a way to address it. You know, all of us, all of us sit on the toilet and it stink. We all mess up. We all fall short. You know what I'm saying? At the
Yep.
end of the day, man, we really need to be more uplifting in our culture, and especially black on black. We got to do better. And so I want people to understand this: when they see stuff on Ready to Love, you're seeing a lot of editing that's being taking place. You're not seeing full conversations, you know, and just take that to light. I'm not on the show,
Mm.
and if you ask, people say, well, people, like I said, because they probably expect me to be negative, have bad
Mm.
things to say. Nah, I'm about love, man. I'm about Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I'm not finna demean the mother of my child.
Mm.
I'm not finna tear her down. I'm gonna lift her up because that's what Christ would want me to do.
Amen.
I'm gonna love on her, and so um, that's what you're gonna get from me. So if you mess with her, you gotta mess with me. Now we ain't together, but I still got her back.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I mean, my reviews will still be coming out, but I hear you. I'm just
Hey, hey,
kidding.
hey, you got a job to do, man. Like I said, you to me, you're a balanced brother.
I appreciate it, man.
I think that. Now I don't know what the cast members think. I think that you're balanced. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, it gets that, man. It's part of the job, innit? So I do understand their viewpoints as well. So, but yeah, honestly, D'Angelo, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know the comments have gone mad. I love that they've enjoyed, they've joined in as well. But really do appreciate you for coming on here and being candid and transparent about your learning processes as well. Really do appreciate that, because I think a lot of us men especially can take something from that and learn as well that, there's things that we also need to be able to do better, and learn that when we're going into marriages, let's make sure that we are covering bases by, going backwards to go forwards, making sure that we're not broken in certain ways that are going to really affect our relationship. I mean, you can't solve everything, but let's make sure we've covered a lot of the bases, going forward. So, that was a word that you dropped. Go for it. You want to say something?
Let me tell nephew Tommy, if you want to do a show on blended families, you probably want to hit me up, brother.
Yeah. Listen, I hope you got that pool, because I ain't got the pool to reach out to. So you better pull him in.
Somebody will pull him in, man.
No, I appreciate that, Cap, man. Thank you again, and audience. We will see you soon. We're back here on Friday. We are here with Stacey from Ready to Love. She's going to give us her views on the show, and I'm sure you guys will be out there in full throw as well. But I appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded, and stay hydrated, okay? Because the streets are what? They're hot.